We'll still be all right.
I think I was standing behind, and I got it all. I was like, it's right there. What's the problem?
Somebody's coming in there.
Sounds like David.
That sounds like David speaking.
Oh.
There he is.
Bailed out.
There he is.
Save.
Heavy duty.
I said 30 seconds early, we're 40 seconds early. That's right.
What are we gonna do with all that time? I thought we were gonna be short-handed for a minute. Good to see you, sir. Good to be here, sir. You as well. Thank you.
Sorry about that.
Good afternoon and welcome to the April 27th, 2021 regular meeting of the Belton City Council. Today, the Pledge of Allegiance to the U.S. flag will be led by Councilmember David K. Lee. The pledge to the Texas flag will be led Director of IT Chris Brown, and the invocation will be given by Councilmember Dan Kirkley.
Join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Join me in the Texas pledge.
On
the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Father, as we come before you this evening, our prayer is that the words of our mouths and the meditations of our hearts would not only be acceptable to you, Father, but would be for the gain and the betterment of all the citizens and neighbors of ours in Belton, Texas. Father, we worship you and ask, Father, that you would be our strength, our wisdom, our joy and our peace. In Jesus' name, amen.
Call the meeting to order. Are there any public comments today?
No, sir.
If not, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Items 3 through 5 are considered to be routine by the city council and may be enacted by one motion. Discussion is desired by any council member. Any item may be removed from the consent agenda prior to voting. Item 3, to consider the minutes of the April 13th, 2021 council meeting. Item 4, to consider an ordinance amending fiscal year 2021 City of Belton fee and rate schedule related to meter box replacement fees. And item 5, consider resolution denying Encore's application for approval of a distribution cost recovery to increase distribution rates within the city. Does anyone wish to pull any of those items? If not,
I move we approve items 3 through 5 as presented.
Second.
all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Those items pass unanimously. Item 6, planning and zoning is to hold a public hearing and consider a zoning change from single-family residential to district with a conservation revitalization overlay, SF2, to a planned development commercial highway on approximately 0.126 acres located at 802 South Pearl Street, described as Connell Block 002, Lot Part 1. Is there anyone who wishes, we'll open the public hearing. Is there anyone who wishes to speak to that matter? If not, we'll close the public hearing and hear a staff report from Planner Tina Moore. Immediate action, girl.
Thank you. All right, for this property, the location is west of 35 and it's north of 190. Here is North Main Street, East Avenue H, and South Pearl Street. The subject property is right here in the red location, right at 802 South Pearl, and it's only a portion of the property, not the entire property that the rezoning will apply to. Here's a zoomed in of the property. Fry's Restaurant is just to the east of the property. And again, it's just a portion of the property. There was an existing house that was demolished a while ago at that location. The zoning of the property is single family 2 with a CR overlay. And surrounding zoning, there are commercial highway zoning just to the east of it at Fry, and retail zoning, and a majority of properties are residential with the CR, SF2 with the CR overlay zoning. The applicant wishes to use a small portion of this property for overflow parking lot, and he's requesting for this zoning change. The use of the property will be restricted to parking and landscaping improvements for compatibility with the adjacent residential neighbors. If a different use is proposed in the future, another zoning change would need to come through to rezone the property to allow for different uses. Here is a proposed site plan of the property. Again, here is the location of Fry, and that property is going to be just adjacent to it for additional parking. The applicant is constructing a ramp to get down to the restaurant. There will be screening between the property and the residential house to the north. The applicant is negotiating the sales of the adjacent property to the south. So he's requesting to put landscaping over there at the moment. He hopes to be able to purchase it in the parking lot. When that comes through, there will be another zoning request for that change to occur. The future land use map shows this as a commercial corridor, so it seems reasonable with this request. Property owners within 200 feet of the property were notified. We got 2 letters of support for the zoning change. Planning and Zoning Commission heard this item at their meeting on April 20th, and they voted to approve this, and this is being recommended to you. Staff concurs with their recommendation. With that, there are conditions that would be following this zoning change. The use of the property, again, should be restricted to just parking and landscape improvements. Development should comply with the requirements that's in the type 2 design district. With that, that concludes my presentation. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you guys may have.
Any questions or concerns?
Avenue H on the thoroughfare plan, does that require a sidewalk with this zoning change or?
There are plans to do a safe route to school sidewalk trail over in that area. So yes, I want to say, I can't quite remember. I want to say it's on the other section side of the street on the northern part of it.
Any lighting for the parking lot?
Not at the present.
Anyone else?
Do we have, to John's point, do we have, what does our ordinance say about lighting if they decided to light that parking lot as far as the types of lighting, you know, that wouldn't be intrusive on the neighboring property?
That is correct. It would need to be shielded, downturn, so it does not invade the other property's privacy.
But we've got that.
We have that as part of the ordinance.
Thank you.
So this is my question. It's probably embedded in the details, but I assume that the property owner of the parking lot is the same as either the restaurant owner or the building owner that leases the restaurant, right?
He is the restaurant owner. He is in the process of acquiring that property as well.
Okay, yeah, because it
Yes.
would be odd to do that for somebody else and then start charging for it or something. I just was curious.
Correct.
Anyone else? Do we hear a motion?
I move we approve agenda item number 6 as presented.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None, so the motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Item 7 is to hold a public hearing and consider a final plat of Sendero Estates replat number 1 subdivision, a replat of tract B on approximately 1.84 acres at Digby and James Ridge Drives. Is there anyone here in the public who wishes to speak to this matter? If not, we'll close the public hearing, and Ms. Moore, you're on again.
Thank you. Before I get started, I want to point out that the applicant's representative is here. Justin Fuller is here for this application. The location of this subject property is off of Digby Drive, and it is west of South Wheat Road and, Boxer Road. It is west of Boxer Road. Here is a zoomed in view of the property and the plat. This is a replat of tract B, which was originally not subdivided due to deed restrictions. The applicant says that that's no longer applicable, and he is moving forward to subdividing this 1.84 acre property for 10 residential lots. Most of the public improvements in this subdivision was previously constructed with Sendero subdivision plat. This property is zoned single family 2, and most of the requirements are met. The typical lot size is 60 by 118, while requirement is 60 by 100. The applicant is asking for a reduction in the front yard setback. The original Sendero plat had a 20-foot setback, and they're asking for the same allowance. Water and sewer are existing in this area. There's an existing 8-inch water and 8-inch sanitary sewer line that is available for connection. Digby Road is considered a minor collector and it has 60 feet of right-of-way with 37 feet of pavement with curb and gutter. Galloway is a local, and so is James Ridge Drive. Galloway has 50 feet of right-of-way and 37 feet of pavement with curb and gutter. James Ridge Drive is 50 feet of right-of-way with 31 feet pavement with curb and gutter. There is a 5-foot sidewalk required on Digby on the south side of the road, and that would be constructed with the building permit applications. There's also requirement for a 5-foot of sidewalk on Galloway per previous agreement with the Sendero plat, and that will also be, actually a portion of it is already constructed near the common area where the city park and detention pond is constructed. The rest of it will be constructed with the issuance of building permits. Drainage to the site will be met by a regional detention basin. The applicant has previously dedicated 1.72 acres of regional park and has also provided improvements for this area. And they are requesting a variance based on the previous dedication and improvement for the parkland requirements. Here are some pictures of the existing park. There's an existing half-court basketball. There's sidewalk and benches and trash receptacles at that location. Because this is a replat, notices were sent out to property owners within 200 feet, and we received one letter of support for that replat. The Planning and Zoning Commission heard this item at their April 20th meeting and voted unanimously to approve this with the variance and to also allow, for the variance for the front yard setback and also for the variance for the parkland fees. That concludes my presentation. I'll be happy to answer any questions you guys have.
Questions or comments from the council?
I like the easy ones that are conforming use and just extending what's already there. So with that, I would make a motion that we approve what was just presented.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you. It's great. I agree with you, David. It's like a quality development, and it's one of those where it doesn't require a lot of pain to get there. Item 8, to consider a preliminary plat of Belton Business Park Phase 5, comprising 16.314 acres located on the south side of Digby Drive. Ms. Moore?
All right, the location of this property is the other side of Digby, that is east of South Wheat Road and west of Kirkley Boulevard. So it is bordered by the wash, and here is that outline of the property. Here is the proposed tract. It consists of 16.314 acres, and it's proposing 6 industrial lots on 2 blocks. There is a phase 1 that is closer to Digby Drive and a phase 2 that will connect to the south. This area is zone light industrial, and the lot sizes and setback conforms to our requirements. Water, there's an existing 12-inch water line that runs on the, water and sewer line that runs along Digby Drive. Water will be extended southerly on Wade Drive, and sewer construction plans are under design. That's part of a bigger project to bring sewer to properties along I-14 and FM 1670. Street Digby is considered a minor collector, and it has 70 feet of right-of-way with 45 feet of pavement with curb and gutter. Wade Road, which is a new road proposed, is going to be a local road with 50 foot of right-of-way with 31 feet of pavement and curb and gutter. The thoroughfare plan is under review for a possible extension of Wade Road to connect Digby Drive to I-14 service road. Drainage to the sites will be evaluated during the building permit site development process. Sidewalk, Digby Drive as a minor collector requires a 5-foot wide driveway, but because this area is industrial, the applicant is requesting a variance. They have previously provided a substitution for a sidewalk to be proposed at a different area that would probably see more use than in this industrial area. The Planning and Zoning Commission heard this item at their meeting on April 20th, and they recommended approval with the variance for the sidewalk and per staff comments that stated April 9th. With that, that concludes my presentation. I'll be happy to answer any questions you have.
Questions or comments?
So no sidewalks through industrial park, right?
Correct.
What is the alternative?
The alternative is a future road called Jones Road that will connect to West. There's going to be an extension of West Avenue D, and it will provide that connection to it. And I apologize, I forgot to say Cynthia Hernandez is here, and she can answer any other questions that you have that I may not be able to answer.
Any other questions or concerns? Just one side note, that newly named Wade Road is in honor of former Mayor Mickey Wade, who served on the council many years and served as mayor and in a variety of civic duties over a long time period. So that name is to honor Mr. Wade. If there are no other comments, we'd entertain a motion.
I move we approve agenda item number 8 as presented.
Second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And the motion passes unanimously. Item number 9 is to consider a final plat of West Canyon Trails Phase 3, comprising 22.70 acres located on the south side of West Avenue O, east of Loop 121 and west of South Connell Street. And you're up for the last time tonight, Ms. Moore. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Before I get started, I want to point out the applicant is joining us via Zoom, and that would be Lena Chate. So here's the location of the property. It is east of Loop 121, south of West Avenue O, and north of Huey Drive. And it consists of this boundary area and the access. Here is a proposed tract. It consists of 22.7 acres. They're proposing 107 lots on 5 blocks. There's also an addition of parcel B, which contains the detention pond, and parcel C, which will be a private neighborhood park. This final plat is consistent with the preliminary plat. However, it combines phase 3 and 4 into one lot. The zoning for the property is single family 3 and all area requirements are satisfied. The typical lot size is 50 by 120. Water and sewer was stemmed from the existing subdivision. There's both 8-inch sewer and water line that will extend. The applicant will also extend water and sewer line down Layla, and those will also be an 8-inch line for connection by a future developer. The site has is required to provide 3 entrances for residential development that has 101 lots. So they were previously approved for these 3 entrances with the preliminary plat. The first entrance will be off of Allen Trail, and it's the main entrance into the subdivision off of Avenue O. The second one is a temporary access that the applicant is providing off of Long Creek Road, and that's through an easement in the retail zoning lot. A third access that they're providing is a 15-foot wide emergency vehicle access easement that will serve the area, and it will connect to Sarah Drive to the south. For streets, Layla Lane is a minor collector, which requires 60 foot of right-of-way and 37 feet of pavement and curb and gutter. There's also a requirement for a 5-foot wide sidewalk on both sides of the road. Additionally, we requested a no access easement be added to Layla Drive to prevent driveways construction onto Layla, to hopefully reduce the traffic flow in that area if we backing up in different types of movements into driveways. Allen, Long Creek Lane, and Sarah Drive are all local street with 50 foot of right-of-way and 31 feet of pavement with curb and gutter. On-site detention will be provided by parcel B, I believe, which, yes, sorry, my notes are right here. Well, just all of the drainage needs to the site, and that will be owned and maintained by the HOA. Fencing is required along the detention basin because of the steepness. The fence that's going to be along Layla Lane will need to be wood fence with the cap top rail to meet our design standards. Parkland fee, with the approval of the preliminary plat, variance was approved to allow for a private parkland that consists of 8.37 acres. Amenities that they're proposing to the sidewalk to the park includes sidewalk, and there's also going to be benches, some bicycle parking, and just a grass with irrigation area for people to play football, soccer at the park. Parkland fees, if it was applied, would be $200 per lot, and that will equal over $34,000. The proposed park with amenities will be equal to or greater than the required fees. The homeowners association will own and maintain the park. The Planning and Zoning Commission heard this item at their meeting on April 20th. They recommended approval, subject to our staff comment letter, and a revised letter was sent out on the 23rd, and I believe you guys have a copy of that. With that, I'll be happy to answer any questions that you guys have.
Thank you. Any questions or comments?
So two questions. One is the future road or thoroughfare that'll tie into Loop 121 and the currently planned emergency access. So on the currently planned emergency access, that little sliver, is when that, I can't see the lot well enough. Is that lot gonna remain open until the other lane is open, or does it get closed in at some point where your little red dot is?
Oh,
So,
it is all done with an easement. It should remain open until the connection is made. And at that time, I believe they can possibly do an amendment. Actually, it's an easement, I believe. So they can continue to use that as an easement or do an amendment to put that as a part of the,
so how do we ensure that those again, is there an easement on that lot? Or is there just going to basically abandon one lot until it's done and then close it in at the end?
there's an easement on the lot.
Okay. And is there enough gravel or something on there that if we need to get a large vehicle in there for emergency, and that's sufficient,
That
included
is
on that lot?
Correct. That is
Okay.
being reviewed.
Okay.
Fire access primarily.
Yeah,
Coming in,
yeah,
right.
exactly.
And there is an access right at the corner between lots 24 and 25, kind of hard to see.
It just looks
There's an
really small
access.
from
Yeah,
here.
it is very
Just
small.
was,
But
you know.
there is an access that goes back to the street that provides access into the subdivision.
And-
One of those other pictures, you can see that little
Yeah.
strip through there.
Yeah. And the other one is the two properties that'll be bisected by a future roadway. Have those property owners been informed that that is the potential plan for the edge of their property
I
The property to
apologize.
the-
Right here.
to the west? And well, mainly, I was looking mainly because I think the two to the west would be probably more imminent.
Oh, okay. I apologize.
The
I'm seeing
James
the,
Wallace survey track where where it says number 106.
It's the ones that are Sparta
Oh.
Plaza.
Those
on
two
the
right
deed.
there.
got it.
It would probably be good if we're planning on putting a road somewhere at some point that we kind of let people know, hey, FYI, here's a future thoroughfare plan
Good
map so
suggestion.
you can
Good
plan.
idea. Right.
I believe we have plans to update the thoroughfare plans in the future, and that would be part of that, to do some
Okay.
notification to the adjacent property owners to let them know, hey, this is coming up and your property may be affected by the changes.
Because where MLK dead ends, there's a thoroughfare plan that the house was built right in the middle of it. And then anyway, so
No, that's a good
then
point.
then thoroughfare plan's not any good. So
What, those ones that he's talking about, what are they zoned along 121? Are those commercial?
probably still ag.
They're probably still ag. I apologize.
Mhm.
I just wasn't sure if that was commercial. We have commercial and then a
The future land use
kid's
map,
playground and then
right, the future land use map shows them as commercial, but they're currently zone ag.
Yeah.
So a follow-up to David's question about the emergency access. So is that, we're saying that's permanent or could be permanent, but they may leave it. But if it's there and it's left after that's all built out or whatever, is that, I guess my concern is what prevents that from becoming used by other people? Or is there some sort of barrier there to where it's going to be emergency access only? I mean, how do you control that?
I believe there's going to be a fence at the entrance that only the fire department can access. There's also plans to stripe that as no parking for the residential area, so it's open.
Okay.
Applicants made a good effort to achieve the 3 access requirement. They just don't control the property on both sides. So until Layla is installed, they really can't achieve that. That emergency access would go away when the rest of that property begins to open up for development.
Who's responsible for the maintenance of that 15-foot right gravel road?
The
City?
developer,
Developer.
the applicant,
Developer.
the developer.
Okay. Any other questions? Ms. Shante, I can't see you, but I know you're there. Did you have anything to add? Not sure that she can hear us. If there are no further questions, I would entertain a motion.
I move we approve agenda item number 9 as presented.
Second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Ms. Moore. You've been a busy lady. Miscellaneous items. Agenda item number 10, consider authorizing the city manager to enter into a professional services agreement with Casberg, Patrick and Associates for design services for the East Sixth Avenue Water Line Replacement Project, something that we talked about for some time.
I know, this is very exciting. So good evening, Mayor and Council.
Thank you, ma'am.
This is great. I'll jump right in. So as it's been alluded to, Sixth Avenue water line is known to break quite frequently. And unfortunately, those breaks lead to quite a few boil water notices for the entire neighborhood. That water line is very old. I don't know exactly when it was installed, but it's an old cast iron line. And there's parts of it that is very like a thin wall, PVC type, plastic pipe. And then make it even worse, it's located underneath the pavement. So it makes the damage that much more disruptive. We had planned to replace this water line with the East Sixth Avenue beautification project. If you all can remember, that is including sidewalks on both sides of the road. It was relocating dry utilities underground. That project with all of the dry utility work and the water line work was going to be close to, I believe, $7 to $11 million. So the funding for the greater project makes it very hard to do. And if we were to do the project, of course, the water line would be moved first. But the problem was if we go ahead and move the water line, it would go underneath what is the existing sidewalk. So we didn't want to replace the sidewalk multiple times. However, the situation has gotten so bad that we're asking to go ahead and replace the water line. So with the passing of budget amendment number 1, that included some CARES Act coronavirus relief funding, which you all passed and provided some funding for this job. So just a little background there. So physically, the water line to be replaced goes all the way from Waco Road all the way to Comay. This is the water line that is all the same material. The majority of the breaks happen near the Comay-Neal area. But again, the same type of water line exists all the way to Waco Road. So we're proposing to remove, actually just to replace it all on the south side of FN 93. So that's about 3,000 linear feet of new 12-inch water line. It's existing 8-inch right now. We really need a 12-inch to serve this area. So might as well do it right. The new water line would be placed behind the back of curb, so outside of the pavement, but still within TxDOT right-of-way. It's a very narrow area. This is going to be a really fun one to design and even funner, if that's a word, to construct. The other issue is there are power poles in the way. We think we can work around them. It's going to take some special shoring to do that. And again, as I said before, it is going to go under the existing sidewalk. We are proposing to not replace the existing sidewalk right now. And I'll go into a little bit more just in the next slide. This will require some TxDOT permitting and a lot of coordination with utilities, but we can do it. So again, not putting the sidewalk back at this time. We are working with K-Tempo. Bob is working diligently with them. The larger East 6 beautification project did score high on the K-Tempo process. We're not really sure how that's going to play out. So we are talking with them about potentially funding the sidewalk portion of that project. There are some big decisions that need to be made fairly soon about the dry utilities because of the breadth of the project, the cost of the project. Do we do the dry utility relocations? Do we not? So a lot of discussion needs to be had. We don't need to make those decisions right now, but it is encouraging to know that K-Tempo is considering funding at least some of the project. So with all of that said, to move forward with the waterline relocation, we worked with KPA to develop a scope of the project. This is a scope where they will design and bid the project. I'm assuming everything goes well and we can afford the construction of the project. So it includes all of the normal things that you can see there. The project can be designed and ready for bid within 150 calendar days. The design proposal is just shy of $120,000. And with the CARES Act and budget amendment funds are available through the capital improvement program. So our recommendation is to authorize the city manager to enter into a professional services agreement with KPA for the design and bid phase services for the 6th Avenue Waterline Replacement Project. And I'd be happy to answer any questions or concerns you guys might have.
How does that tie into the other side of 6? Is that going to service both sides of 6? And will
Yes.
you do bores to
Yes,
connect?
that's right. We'll have to rebore 6th Avenue for those service lines.
Is
So
there a bunch?
there's not a bunch. There's a
I mean, they're kind
few.
of mainly at streets and then maybe if,
Yes, there's some, let me go back to the drawing. There's a few key connections. Let me-
I'm not asking for an exact.
That's okay. Yeah, no worries. There's like a connection right there. There's some big connections right here. And this is only just a snippet, but mainly after the water line crosses, mainly the services are off of the ones that go on the other streets. So it's not like you're going to see a bunch of crossings.
And so by leaving the sidewalk out, we're kind of leaving the hole open, basically, not literally, but leaving it open to do the rest of the utilities before we invest in putting the sidewalk back.
Yes, sir. It depends on the timing. If we know for sure certain things are going to happen, we'll either leave it somewhat bare or we'll, especially if we're going to be in people's yards, we'll definitely resod. So we'll have to make that decision early on.
Which there's not a lot of that on the south side, but. And so we're really not, I'm just making sure we're not missing an opportunity to save money. So by leaving the sidewalk out, that's what's leaving us open to being able to go ahead and make the decision to do everything. And by not doing it all at the same time, we're really not costing ourselves any money. Because you can't put it in the same hole
Sure.
That's right.
anyway.
Yeah,
That's right.
The critical issue right now is the water line because it keeps breaking, a lot of inconvenience to the residents, boil water notices, and certainly the disruption to traffic that occurs so often, and midnight repairs, which are very, very common for public works. We believe this is the most strategic move, basically, because that's the most critical issue. K-Tempo is scoring projects right now, and as Angela mentioned, Bob's working hard and David as we go through that process to try to get that ranked high. And it's at the current time, it's ranked number 2 in the region at the 6th Avenue project, but it is a very expensive project. Overall, about $11 million to do the whole thing. And so it's not, while it is ranked high, we may not get that entire amount of funding. So that's the decision point that may come in the not too distant future, the allocation of money toward that project and what we do first. That's in the category of projects essentially for pedestrian movements, for sidewalks. And so the council decision will be whether if we get a certain amount of funding, how we aggregate that with other funding to put the utilities underground. The goal has always been to do that.
I think we're kind of, in my opinion, we're kind of making a commitment to do that. Because once you rip that sidewalk out, it's got to go back, and it would be crazy to put it back without
Right.
relocating the other utilities. So we're kind of sort of making a little bit of a commitment to do that anyway, which I'm not against.
I think clearly the commitment is to put the
We're just
sidewalk
got to
back
figure out how to pay for
at
it.
some point. The question probably is whether to put the utilities underground. That's the bigger, more expensive question. That's the biggest part of the project, basically, to put those utilities underground.
Well, it'd be kind of crazy not to, in my opinion, to put the sidewalk back without putting those other
Correct.
utilities
Right.
in the
It's-
ground.
it's-
So that's why I say we're kind of making a little bit of a commitment to do that and finish that job when we start it, which again, I'm okay with, but we just got to figure out how to pay
How to
for
pay
it,
for it, right.
depending on what happens.
Certainly hope that K-Tempo continues to rate us very highly.
Right.
Um,
That's our hope.
So here's the provocative question. We're gonna have to tear up asphalt, right?
No.
No, we won't.
No, because we
'Cause
will
we're gonna
have
bore?
to, we'll be outside the curb, so it'll probably be a mini X working on this water line.
Okay.
And then the existing water line gets abandoned in place. Basically, TxDOT will likely make a slurry fill that thing. So we
Okay.
won't be tearing up Sixth Avenue,
Th-
with the exception of maybe 2 or 3 small connections. That's a 1-lane closure.
Here's the thing is when we look at it this way, and again, it's provocative. When we look at it this way, like when we dig up part of Main Street and we know we might have to dig it up again, we don't just leave a big hole because we're going to waste money. We do it because people use that for travel. And what we're saying here is people don't use sidewalks. So it's okay for them to walk in the road. And I think that's very nearsighted. Myopic, I think is the word. And so I think at a minimum, we should at least, when we do stuff on the streets all the time, we put the little thing across the road, and you get the little snake that you drive over and you see how many people are actually driving down that road. Have we done any analysis to know how many people use the sidewalk before we make a decision? We're not going to put a sidewalk back.
No,
What's the
Okay.
condition of the sidewalk?
poor.
It's poor and it's narrow. It's the older style.
Yep.
Think about the.
And it bucks up and down. I think there's a lot of cottonwoods or some big old trees on that
There are.
side, and it's not perfect.
So it's more or less not usable in
Yeah,
its
it-
current
it
state
need-
No, it
needs to
is
be-
used.
by
It
walking.
is used.
Yeah,
It is
needs to be
used.
replaced.
Yeah.
It needs to be replaced. I think we're making the commitment to replace the sidewalk. It's just a matter of when.
Well,
And
and what's the cost of the sidewalk to replace it while we're there? Have we done that analysis to know just the sidewalk? If we were to do that, we average 12 people a day using the sidewalk, and it will cost us $230,000 to replace it. Do we have that data before we make a decision? We're not going to.
It's easily attainable. I just don't
Okay.
have that.
I think we need to make those, we need to at least get a picture of what it is and what the impact is, both budget and to people, before we just make a decision. I mean, an informed decision is usually a better decision, but never a perfect decision. And I just think we should do that. And at a minimum, if we don't put the sidewalk back, go get some crushed granite and put a curb something, and just at least so people can walk on it. And maybe they can't put a wheelchair on it. But, we're seeing more and more in Temple and Belton, usually little old ladies and little old guys, they're like got the puppy in their lap, and they're like driving down Main Street in a wheelchair. And anyway,
Well, we can definitely put down some millings. We can do that as part of the project.
okay.
That's what I was gonna say, put something temporary. But I think we also need to communicate with those
Yeah,
people
definitely.
Oh,
in that area. Hey,
Are y'all
this,
asking that that be included in this agenda item? This
Well,
item?
now, if this agenda item says we are not going to replace sidewalks,
Well, what I'm asking is, the service, the design services are for water. Are you asking her to put these things in what y'all are supposed to be considering tonight? I don't think
well,
that's-
okay, let me ask the question. So this design services assumes we will not have sidewalks.
And that's what I'm asking. Do you
So the
want-
answer from me, I mean, I can't, if you're not prepared to answer the questions that give some empirical evidence to that,
No, I'm
then-
just saying, are you asking them, and I don't think it's unreasonable to do it, I'm just asking, are you asking them to include in this proposal what it would cost
yeah,
to do the sidewalk?
yeah. I mean, and maybe we don't do the sidewalks and we do something temporary. Yeah. Yeah,
That's all
yeah,
I'm asking.
yeah,
we're not approving the project tonight, we're approving
This is just the
the
design.
services to
Design.
Yeah.
design it.
yeah, absolutely.
So we
And
can
all-
ask for that.
All
Yeah.
this includes is water.
Water curb, whatever, yeah, boring, whatever, yeah.
Would it need an amendment or could they do that within this scope?
To
Well,
put
we
down
can
millings, we
always-
can
I
just
mean,
specify.
Could we
it.
do it in this? John, why don't you come up for a second?
Yeah.
Is that not a number Angela can come up with?
Oh, yeah, we can come up with it. It's just,
I'm saying
Like-
not to make it official in
Yeah.
this, but you come up with a number before we decide to start.
Well, I
digging.
don't think a sidewalk concept is going to add significantly to the cost of the engineering services, but that's a big assumption.
We priced out the sidewalk when we did the full-on study of East Sixth Avenue. Unfortunately, when we pulled that out, I don't have that committed to
Yeah, that's
memory,
fine.
So I couldn't tell you what that cost is today. But that number is available construction-wise, what the sidewalk would be on that side of the road.
Yep.
So,
And see, that's what I'm asking. This is for design services. You also want to add design services for the sidewalk.
Sounds like we've already done it. We just need to know what the
Just need
number
to-
is before we make the decision to dig.
We've scoped the price. We've done a ballpark estimate of the cost of the sidewalk, but it hasn't been designed yet. And I don't know what that would add to this.
right, there would be additional fees for designing the sidewalk because it would have to meet ADA standards. So there's likely a little bit of additional permitting that would have to go into that. We'd have to submit that to TDLR for review because it's going to eclipse the thresholds there that require submission of it. So
Can we not do temporary, or did I have to meet ADA too? If we did like crushed granite?
if you've got an ADA accessible path on the opposite side of the road, you could consider that your ADA route along Sixth. Whether or not that's considered, if memory serves me right, I think there's some missing teeth in that sidewalk. So, what's there right now would not consider it ADA accessible. So it's kind of a catch-22 there.
I mean, we could put down temporary millings and not call it an actual sidewalk, but we can just put as part of like the post-construction side, restoration being, we put down millings. We don't advertise that as a sidewalk.
Correct.
But it can be used.
Yeah, I just think, it's better to do some analysis before we just stroke of a pen, no sidewalks. And, because there are quite a few people that go up and down that, well, maybe with McDonald's not open anymore and some of the restaurants, but there were quite a few people that walk up and down Sixth on that side of the road because there's gaps on the other side.
How long are we talking? Because that factors into this as well.
It's probably years, not months.
I mean,
probably years.
realistically, it's going to be years before
I
we
think so.
complete this.
5 months design.
Well, I think they're asking about the sidewalk itself.
Yeah.
being
Yeah, if we were to say no
replaced.
sidewalk and then wait for the big program at some point in the future that we may or may not get, how long will that be? That will not be months.
Is there not a property acquisition component of this? Because I think at Wilson Kersey Field, you've got 5-foot sidewalks that bump right up to the fence of the field. So, I mean, if we've got 4 foot now and we got to be at least 5 foot to be ADA, it's not a huge deal either way, but I mean, it's this.
Yeah, for the installation of the water line alone, we weren't anticipating any property acquisition. But to do the sidewalk correctly, as planned with the East Sixth beautification, there was going to be some property acquisition.
I guess the point I was making early on was by pulling the trigger on this project, I think we are making a commitment that we're going to have to put the sidewalk back. Thus, for cost's sake, we're kind of making a commitment that we're going to relocate those other utilities. And so, I wouldn't anticipate it being years. We'll just have to figure out how to pay for it. But I think by starting this project, we're kind of starting down that road and making somewhat of a commitment to do that, because I'm not okay with those sidewalks being gone for years.
Yeah, it's not going to be indefinite. I just don't think we're quite at the point of making a decision about all the utilities, but we're just trying to replace the water line now and get some review of the sidewalk situation. What can we do in the interim? I think before we get done with the design of the water line, we'll know where we are funding wise on the sidewalk improvements. I think that
Before we
decision.
start tearing anything out.
Yes. I believe we'll know that before the end of the summer.
I have a couple out of left field questions. If we can bore across the street, and I watched Atmos bore a 24-inch gas line out my front door for 1,000 feet, is there a option to even bore the entire length of this? I mean, that's my out of left field question.
I don't think you can afford that.
No.
Okay, that was the question. So,
That's not-
We're trying to save money with the sidewalk. We can't.
and then
Dig a hole.
my next question being, if we're digging a hole, if we know, and again, it's probably one of those things where can we install quote unquote conduit for future utilities instead of having the utilities ran at this time?
It's not in the same trench.
I know that. I'm just saying, like, if we're
Yeah.
ripping up a sidewalk, because that would allow us to replace the sidewalk as if we were prepared for future.
I
Not
think
saying
there's
we
still
have
a
to do
lot of
all.
unknowns because the 6 beautification project is not designed. It's by concept, and we've just done a preliminary engineering report. So I don't feel comfortable unless we went full-blown engineering to this 6th Avenue project to be able to design that duck bank. To be able to do that. I get what you're saying. I
Yeah.
think it's a great idea, but I think we'd have to be further in design in the whole project.
My lack of engineering expertise makes y'all uncomfortable, whereas lack of sidewalks makes us uncomfortable.
Sure. Yeah, we just get a lot of pressure from the water line, obviously from the neighborhood. So if we want to delay this water line for the sidewalk, that's fine. We can continue to respond to breaks as necessary. Just need that direction from you all.
Well, I don't think we want, and as we see, you get scope creep, right? So you start this and you start that, and by the time you're in, I mean, now you got a $50 billion project,
Right.
and then you don't do anything when all you needed to do was the water line. So I don't think we're pushing back on we need to replace the water line. We just need to have good information before we just make a decision. And if we do need to make a decision, at least we know this is what happens if we do, this is what happens if we don't.
So going back to the sidewalk deal, some of the final alignment of the sidewalk in the whole conceptual was to go through alignments currently occupied by overhead power poles. While, yes, we could put some sleeves in that would facilitate future relocation of that underground, Encore's preliminary plan also took some of the electric and served it from the rear of lots. So that required numerous easements that they needed to acquire to make that happen. The last component, most important component, is Encore would have to have all of their work done and be able to pull those poles out so that we could put the sidewalk in their place that they currently occupy. So to put back the sidewalk per what the conceptual is, you really need everything on that side underground or relocated behind the lots so that you can get rid of those poles that are currently obstructing the horizontal alignment. And so anything that we would put back would essentially be a throwaway, whether it's.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a cost to that in time, dollars, and safety, right? So with no sidewalk is a safety concern. Temporary sidewalk is a cost concern. Waiting for it until whatever is an indeterminate time concern. And so, yeah, it's definitely not a win-win-win. It's kind of a lose-lose-lose. We just want to minimize the potential loss.
The benefit that we do get, if I could just make the case, is that we restore reliable water service to the neighborhood.
We agree. I totally agree.
We're
It's just, yeah.
I get what you're saying.
Yep.
Okay.
I think as a part of this project, we would ask KPA to give us some recommendations on what to do on an interim sidewalk. And I think, again, before the design is finished, the 5 or 6 months of the design for the water line, we'll know where we are funding wise on the project before K-Tempo. And so as those plans are done, we go out for bids on that. I think we'll have a better idea, and certainly some recommendations for interim use. We recognize that a lot of people use it right now. We don't believe this project needs to be delayed until we have all the answers, because we're just not going to have them all right now. But I think it seems logical to go ahead with the water line design and then keep the council informed about what we know about the funding for the rest of the project, and then come back to y'all for a decision on that.
And it may not be the whole project. It may
Correct.
just be enough of the project to
Right.
put the sidewalk in.
Mhm.
And then you get the rest later, which maybe that's the biggest part. I don't know, but that sounds great.
The last stupid question is that save the people on the sidewalk, save the trees. So and when we do this bore or this digging, are we going to impact those trees or, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, there'll be 3 large trees that will have to
Down.
come.
Yeah, I kind of figured that because
They're
they're
the
really
intersection.
starting to tear up.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
Cottonwood.
Cottonwoods, there's
Yeah,
several
cottonwoods, they're
cottonwoods down there.
huge.
Yes.
Yeah.
there are.
That's a,
Well, the cottonwoods are also past their life
Yeah, they're-
expectancy
yeah.
too.
Yeah, they're dying.
They're dying.
yeah, that's a short
But
term.
we'll definitely have to have some communication with the property owners there as a result of that. But they are in the right of way as far as I know.
Yes.
But still have to have some discussion with those folks about that.
And we probably ought to tell those folks the larger
Oh,
scale
sure.
plan
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
as well.
No, we agree, or at least I did, that, water service to the area is the number one priority. Everything else is secondary and to that.
But very important. And hopefully we will get the assistance on doing that in the future. So we need to amend item 10, or are we okay to approve it as is and still accomplish what we've discussed?
One of the things, the reason I brought it up is because the design of this sidewalk, if you put it in on temporary basis for 2 years, 5 or 10 years, it's different than the design they did before, because that sidewalk is totally different than what this sidewalk would be.
Yep.
Totally.
Are we just looking for, David, are we just looking for a number in your perspective to what a temporary
Yeah, I mean, it's,
sidewalk would be? Because I don't see why Angela can't give us a ballpark on that versus a sidewalk versus the traffic. I mean, that's just information that I feel like she can provide us without amending this.
I agree.
I mean,
yeah, I mean, all you do is it's like a ad alternate type thing is here's the scope of the work and the engineering and the permits that we'd have to pull and here's how long it would take and how many dollars. And if we amortize it over, okay, the next project may take 10 years, then we kind of know what it is. It just having the information, we don't have to kill it.
And a lot of the when we're building sidewalks now, like on South Wall, we have to go in and take out everything. That's a big expense here. It's gonna all be taken out.
Yep.
Just putting the sidewalk back on top.
And
And I'm
one
not
side of
trying
it's
to
already
pile
formed
on
up,
to
right? It's
your
called a curve.
workload and take away from your living, but it just seems like the questions we need answers to, you could probably answer.
So are we okay with the motion as it is, or the proposal as it is, and the assumption that Angela's going to get us a general idea of what temporary sidewalks would be, so we know what we're going to do?
Yeah, I think,
in the
well,
interim?
abandoning the sidewalks is not part of the engineering design.
Right.
Right? It just doesn't include the replacement of the sidewalks. That is an easy thing because it's on top of the ground. We can do that later. So totally good. Yep. So that being said, I will make a motion to authorize the city manager to enter into a professional services agreement with KPA to help us on the water line on 6th.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you. I think that's a good discussion. It is an issue. I used to walk down that sidewalk to junior high school 100 years ago, so we've been down there. 110, you're right, probably so.
It really does need to be replaced.
I know. Yeah. Used to tie up the horse when I got
Yeah,
to
it still
school.
has wagon ruts in it.
That's right. Item 11, consider authorizing the city manager to enter into professional services agreement with Casberg, Patrick and Associates for design services for the East 24th Avenue and Main Street wastewater improvements and the McFarland Estate Street and utility improvements projects. Ms.
All right.
Points.
There's no sidewalk in this project. No, it's all good. It's all good. Good stuff. All right. In the fiscal year 21 budget and the capital improvement plan, we indicated quite a few projects. So a part of the CIP included those major projects that you're very aware of, the South I-35 water line that the EDC is working on, South Belton Sewer Phase 2, which is coming to you tonight. Also included was South Belton Shared Use Path. So all like really great big projects. But 2 other small projects that you might not have caught your eye, but I feel like they're very much equally just as important because these are projects that are internal to our city, taking care of our existing customers. So one of those is the East 24th Avenue wastewater improvement. So again, East 24th at Main. It's a short segment of sewer line underneath Main Street, but there's a belly in the line. You probably see what we call Big Red or vac truck on the west side of the road quite often. If not weekly, not maybe every other day. We are out there washing the sewer line to keep the sewer flowing. So it's not an easy fix. It's not we open up Main Street and fix it. We will have to bore Main Street. So a little bit of a complicated job, but even though it's very short, but very doable. So this would be a great fix that would free up maintenance for other things and keep sewer flowing. The other project's a little bit bigger. That's right here next to the Harris Community Center. So Harris Community Center is right here. This is what is known as McFarland Estates. Previously, it was called like Smith Second, Third Water and Wastewater Improvements. That was just really long. And the more we looked into it, the more we were realizing we've got a lot of issues out here. Part of it is there is a 1 and a 2 inch water line on Boyles. These sewer areas are frequent wash areas, sewer and water issues here. These are really old water lines that used to break pretty often, knock on wood, that it doesn't break again. But there's a lot of improvements we can do here. It's an old part of Belton, old infrastructure. And as you guys are probably well aware, the streets are also in very poor condition. And a lot of it is because these utilities have broken so much over time. There's a lot of patches and a lot of it's just old roads. So this project is to revamp this area with utilities, water and sewer, make some improvements to make it all flow better, and also improving the line sizes to meet fire flows. And then at the end, repairing these really poor condition streets. So I'm really excited about this project because, again, it takes care of our existing customers and it restores reliable utility operations to this area. We did reach out to KPA to develop a scope of services for this job. We feel like these two projects are great to combine as one in a way. You bid it as one project. Obviously, there's different line items for each of the projects that we can manage. This is a design and bid phase service, no construction admin. Because we want to make sure after it is designed, we still have money to go into construction. The design will be relatively quick in about 120 calendar days. Design proposal is $102,000, and we do have it fully funded from the Water and Sewer Capital Improvement Fund. Be happy to answer any questions. I won't read this, it's very long, but our recommendation is to award that contract with KPA to design these two projects together as the 2021 Street and Utility Improvements Project.
Questions or comments?
I move we approve agenda item number 11.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously, and I'm sure those folks will appreciate getting better water service in the long term. That's, as you said, that's an old part of town, and I'm sure those lines have been there a long time.
I think our crews will appreciate it too.
Well, I'm sure. Item 12. Consider award of bid and authorizing the city manager to execute the construction contract for the 2021 street overlay project and any change orders associated with the contract not to exceed the amount authorized under state law.
I am going to hand this over to our interim assistant director of public works, Scott Hottie. As you guys may know, we had a few changes in my leadership staff, and Scott has stepped up as the interim assistant director of public works. So I'm going to give him the opportunity to present this item to you.
Thank you.
Be gracious.
Any sidewalks involved here?
No. Good evening, Mayor and council members. Thanks for the opportunity to allow me to come up here and present the street overlay project and the bid board recommendation. To start off, we'll kind of go over an overview of what we've done over the past 6 years, which you can see up there. I mean, basically the HMAC has been 2.4, 2.6 miles and a little more steadily through 2018, 2019, and 2020 with around 3 miles. This one here is going 2.9 miles with a general cost of $586,000, which is pretty in line with the other cost of what has happened the past years. Little bit of the scope of work that we're planning on having done will be 2-inch milling of the full width of all roads, along with the replacement of 2 inches of asphalt to go along with that. There will be traffic control provided There will be right-of-way preparations as far as sweeping of the roads, blading of the grass, and leveling wherever it may be needed. Also will be adjustments to manholes if needed in certain areas, and valve covers will be replaced throughout the project. We also have a certain amount of tonnage of asphalt for soft spots. Should they see any or find any, they can repair them, and we've got that included in the project. There is an alternate bid for inverted crown on Jordan Street and also the adding of curb to Hilltop. There will be mobilization, bonds, and insurance provided on this project also. With the schedule, we are hoping to proceed here in May if approved. And the duration for the project should be a maximum of 4 months. We don't see that taking place. We see it being done sooner. Kind of give you a general idea of the streets that we're looking at. You will see, if I can figure out the pin here, they showed me one time, I think I've got it. We have East Street on the north side over here. Downing, which at this point, Downing right now, we in-house have been prepping this street for the trench that was failing. So we went ahead and went through there and are in the process. We haven't started this one, but we will be in another week or two starting the process of repairing the trench and doing some backfill material to prepare for the milling. We also have an area of Hilltop over here, which will be the curb replacement that we were talking about. 12th Street areas, 15th, Wells over here.
Is there any curb at all on Hilltop?
No, sir.
And all the way across, right?
There's a few spots on Hilltop, but it needs to be completed. The other roads that we have here are Wall, Pearl. Continuing on, I know y'all can see these, but just kind of showing you Marshall here, which is luckily been able to, it was hit by the ice storm pretty good. We were able to get that funded through the CARES Act, which was a big help. We have Pearl Street. And like I said, you can see a lot of these over here. Fairway, Jordan is the inverted work that we haven't done. We had 3 bids total for this project: Texas Materials out of Cedar Park, Lone Star Paving out of Temple, and Alpha Paving out of Round Rock. And as you can see, there were variables between all of them. Texas Materials had the lowest bid at $586,230. And being that it was lower than the others, we did make sure with Texas Materials that all I's were dotted, T's crossed on the bid, and it was, and it's a good bid. Funding and recommendation for this project, we had $750,000 currently available in the Streets Division budget with the approval of the fiscal year 21 budget amendment number 1. Being that the bid was $164,000 approximately under the available $750,000 funding, we recommend to proceed with the base bid and alternate bids A, B, and C with the options of the additional streets to be added per a change order. Regardless, the amount added will be limited to the funding allotted and no more than 25% of the contract up to the maximum funding. It is our recommendation that the award bid and authorize the city manager to execute the construction contract for the 2021 street overlay project in the amount of $586,230 with Texas Materials Group, and any change orders associated with the contract not to exceed the amount authorized under state law. I'd be happy if I'm able to answer any questions, and if not, I know Angela's over here on the side.
I don't want to second guess you at all, but I do have a couple questions. I'm just real familiar with the area. In Hilltop, boy, just not much traffic on that road. Just curious about the priority. And then, of course, 12th. You know, I know there's a little S curve that goes through the middle of 12th on Penelope that is odd. But boy, that dead end doesn't service very many people. There's a baseball field and maybe 3 houses. I just wonder if we couldn't use the money somewhere else. Just curious.
Yeah, we sure could. When we did our drive, yeah, when we did our drive, those were some of the worst streets in those neighborhoods. The road quality is really bad. I know it's not heavily trafficked. They're in really bad shape. So, and we've done, quite a bit of work in that neighborhood, and that's kind of like to round it out a little bit. But if you would like to pull those streets, we'd be more than happy.
I'm not saying pull them. I just,
Yeah.
Hilltop on the other side isn't done. I don't think there's any curb and gutter on that side. Blair doesn't have any curb and gutter in between there. They're just kind of side streets that
Yeah.
until we put the four-way stop sign up, they weren't used at all. And, now the north side uses a cut through. But I don't
Yeah.
want to second guess you, but I'm just
No worries.
in the area a lot. We ride our bike down those streets and pretty familiar with them.
Yeah, we're proposing the curb on Hilltop because it's an easy place to add curb because the grading on the lots are high and the edges of the pavement are just deteriorating. We felt like if we added just a little bit of curb, it would preserve the life of that street and it would help the drainage too.
I'm good with the justification.
Thank you, sir. Good questions.
I've got one question, just for matter of record, because it's confuses me. But Texas Materials is formerly APAC, formerly Wheeler, formerly, so those names might be more familiar, not that it matters, but it's even confusing in my business what they're named today. But that being said, it's a good company. It's just, you got to keep track of the acquisitions.
We give them a hard time. We ask them what their name is every time we see them.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
But they've been around. I just want to make sure it was known that it's not some new company.
On your next map, I noticed Pearl Street is red. That's the alternate, but we're gonna fund it. I noticed it stops at Avenue J. I obviously know there's a atrocious situation on the rest of Pearl going towards the frontage road. And I know that's not our doing or those like two houses of residents doing, but is there any course of action there without impeding a successful business in Belton? I mean, it's absolutely terrible. So is Pearl on the other side, but I believe that was a TxDOT that tore that one up.
This is always the challenge with these street maintenance funds. We get for this case, we get $750,000. I could probably spend all of that on that one segment on Pearl. I would like to, we just don't have the funds. But you're right. The forklifts in the loading and unloading have destroyed that road and it really should be a concrete road.
And when I'm just wondering, like, we're responsible for maintenance. There is some people that live on that street. But we're there, obviously we know who's tearing it up. Is there any sort of remedy to partner, assist? I don't know.
I'm not sure there's a good answer to that, but it's a very good point.
Yeah, no, I think you made a very good point. We've studied that street and tried to figure out what to do with it. That's a CIP project, basically, at some point in time, and perhaps with some cost sharing with the business entity there. Certainly, we have some responsibility, but it's a major challenge, and we certainly recognize that.
So on the positive spin, these are the things that excite me about what we're being able to do, because we're actually able to do things that the citizens see, touch, and feel. It impacts their lives. And so I really like that we're doing that. I hope we continue. Based on the current appraisals, you might have like $10 billion next year for street maintenance. Now we'll have, we're going to find a point. Everybody's going to move out of Belton because nobody wants to pay the taxes.
Unless you challenge it.
Yeah. Well, no, I've already filed my challenge. But no, it's really good that we're putting this money to work there. And, and we can always nitpick. It's like, my big one is the worst street in Belton is at 13th in College or whatever. It's like when we continue to do these and we're not doing anything over there.
South Pearl's getting right up there.
Yeah. Anyway, but no, it's good. I'm glad we're doing it. So
I just wish we could do more.
yep,
I
I'm
think
with
we
you.
could, every one of us could come up with 2 or 3 streets that we would really like to include. That area over around the university and West 13th and all that.
Yeah. And the street in front of my house, everybody wants the street in front of my house, except my street's getting work.
Any other questions or comments?
I will tell you, you notice a lot of ice damage. I mean, streets that were great are not that great anymore.
And if you think ours are bad, drive through Temple.
I mean, to David's point, I mean this, I don't expect anything to be done, but Dunn's Canyon is a nice road but it's getting some
Yep.
potholes, and it's all because of ice.
Even Commerce there behind Walmart. I mean, there's
Yeah.
just lots of places that just were relatively new roads. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that being said, I will make the motion that we adopt whatever the thing
13.
is. Yeah, this.
And with that said, also, we do have the 164,000 approximately left over
That's great.
for additional streets. So hopefully we can hit some somewhere. So
Hopefully we can find some more to throw at that too.
Yeah.
Yep.
Have to be a new contract because you're picking it out.
nice.
We have a motion and a second, I think.
We do.
All right. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hear none, so the motion passes unanimously. And again, thank you for all you're doing. Like David said, those are the kind of things that you can really see and people appreciate. And look forward to hopefully finding some money to do a few more that we can all identify.
Thank you.
An excellent job on your first presentation.
Very good. Professional.
Thank you.
Well done.
Item 13, to consider an award of a bid and authorizing the city manager to execute the construction contract for the South Belton Sewer Phase 2 project and any change orders associated with the contract not to exceed the amount authorized under state law. And Ms. Point?
All right, let's just take a moment and realize where we're at. Okay. South Belton Sewer Phase 2 bid awards. This is very, very, very exciting. Okay. Back in 2018, we awarded the design professionals contract with Half Associates. We, for a couple of years, worked with the project, design, survey, and really the majority of the time was not designing it. It was, I was able to obtain 16 easements by donation. It was such an incredible experience and wonderful property owners out there. So I'm honored to have done that. In February 2019, phase 1 of the project was completed by construction. It was below, but it was within budget and on time. But we were holding on phase 2 for that very last easement. And on March 5th, 2021, a great day happened, and we received that last easement, which was actually not an easement between the city of Belton and a property owner. It was between Encore and a property owner that we helped facilitate. So that was critical for the project to move forward. We then sharpened our pencils again and advertised it, and we bid it on April 20th, 2021. And I'll just briefly go through the project, just so we're all aware. The project adds a regional lift station on the River Farms property. There is gravity sewer along Interstate 35, Toll Bridge Road, and it punches underneath Interstate 35 to provide sewer, specifically the Wagner tract, but it was just generally South Belton. And it gravity flows to the lift station, and then it force mains it all the way up to Capitol Way. We did redesign phase 2, which I think was an excellent suggestion. We followed the master plan, and it was 2 lift stations. We were able to reduce it down to this one that is on River Farms property. This is the outline of the area that can be served by gravity by the single lift station. It includes the property that BISD recently purchased at Loop 121 in Shanklin, all the way here, backside of the Wagner Trust Tract, slightly north of Lampasas River, all of River Farms, all of these properties along Interstate 35 and Toll Bridge, and this map's going to get really marked up, all the way up to be able to take Cedar Crest off of their private lift station. So a lot of area that we've just opened up for sewer. And then the complementary project that the EDC was able to fund is that Interstate 35 water line that goes along Toll Bridge Road. So anyways, let me get that my pin out. That's along this area. Okay. So we bid the project in April. The engineer's OPCC at the time was $5.3 million. That was a 2019 cost estimate. We were hearing that we were going to receive a little bit higher cost for the project. We did receive 4 bids. The low bidder was Bill Contractors, and their estimate was $5,490,000. I wish $480,033. So we spoke with all of the contractors who bid and did not bid, and there was just some higher costs for specifically manholes. We're hearing higher costs for concrete. I don't know if that's correct. But at least manholes, there's an incredible wait time for flying off the shelf. But anyways, that caused a little bit of a price increase, but still it was a very good price. As far as schedule, the bid award recommendation is tonight. We can, if awarded, we'll execute the contracts and hold the pre-construction meeting in May sometime. And we hope to start construction and break ground by June 1st. The project will take a little over a year to construct because it is a major lift station with a lot of power extensions to it. So hopefully by July 22, fingers crossed, if everything goes well, that thing can be online and ready to go. The funding, believe it or not, comes from the 2016 utility CO. We do have around $6 million available between construction. For construction, and the next item is the construction admin services, and there may be $100,000 available from EDC from a cost share. So our recommendation is to award that contract with Bell Contractors for the South Belton Sewer Phase 2. I'd be happy to answer any questions you all may have. I'm really excited to get started.
I love to dones better than to dos, and it's good to get this one to done.
Me too. 3.5 years of my life.
Huge.
We'll say sign that contract as soon as possible. Sure, correct.
Lock in those prices.
How about a motion? I move we approve agenda item number 13.
Thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you for all your hard work on that and working to get those right of ways and easements. And I know that that's exciting
Yes, sir.
to get to this point. So
Yes, sir.
thank you very much. Item 14, consider an amendment to the professional services agreement with Half Associates for construction phase services for the South Belton Sewer Phase 2 construction project.
All righty. So complimentary to what we just awarded, this is the construction administration services from Half Associates. I won't go through the whole spill again, but the scope of their work we've awarded was design and bid phase services only. Their construction admin phase services helps me review submittals. They help attend and coordinate the progress meetings, help me review and approve pay applications, review change orders if they come up, do general construction oversight as the engineer of record. They will also be present for the startup and testing of that regional lift station. They'll provide construction staking for the contractor and at the end develop record drawings. The proposal is for $84,464, which is a very small percentage of the construction low bid amount. We spoke with them. We believe that this is an appropriate proposal. It's reasonable, and we do have the funding available from the 2016 utility CO. So with your approval, we will enter in a contract with them and proceed.
Questions or
Happy to.
comments? Do I hear a motion?
Move we approve item 14 as presented.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that passes unanimously. Thank you for all your work on that and
Well done.
and your staff. Appreciate it very much. The last item tonight is a work session to receive a presentation on proposed organizational structural changes in the Belton Police Department, and Assistant City Manager, Chief of Police, Gene Ellis will present that.
Good evening. Excited to bring this proposal to you. We've been, I guess, experimenting for a couple of years, ever since Deputy Chief Jen Wesley retired, and we flattened our structure some and went down to one deputy chief and changed some responsibilities. We did some strategic planning recently. Matter of fact, I think I have a picture in here of that session, and identified some ways that we could be better organized and our structure being more efficient while still maintaining a somewhat flat structure. Just a quick glimpse of what it currently looks like. The orange are those supervisors below Deputy Chief. I do have my command staff, part of them, here tonight, and that's Deputy Chief Larry Berg, Lieutenant Alan Fields, and Lieutenant Daniel Aguirre. So right now we have 2 lieutenants, these gentlemen that function as division commanders below Deputy Chief, 4 sergeants who serve as watch type commanders over our patrol shifts, 1 sergeant who functions as a criminal investigations commander, and then we have the civilian non-sworn manager support services manager, which is, you all know, is Candace Griffin. She took on many of Deputy Chief Wesley's duties when, as far as overseeing our civilian staff. What we're proposing is to reclassify these 2 lieutenants to the rank of captain. Some of our neighboring agencies use the term captain, some use commander. You may remember at one time we had the rank commander here. And then create 3 lieutenant positions by promotion, by promoting the sergeants. All these changes that we're talking about involve no additional FTEs. They're going to be taking current FTEs and employees and promoting them. But they'd serve as those division supervisors. And then we'd add backfill 2 sergeant positions to give us the 4 sergeants for the patrol shift to serve as field supervisors. So that'd increase that from 8 to 10 supervisors below deputy chief. Give you a quick glimpse here of that change in that organizational structure, kind of the patrol side of the house and then the special operations side of the house. And then along about January of 2022, could be even spring, if this is approved and makes it through the budget, we'd take and add back in. At one time, we had a school resource officer sergeant, and we eliminated that position through a change of personnel. A person stepped down, and at the time it was, we felt the right decision, but we also recognized the need to have that person in there for coordination. We're currently using an officer in a lead type role, field training officer, to do that. It's just not worked out as well. This position is mostly funded by the reimbursement we get through BISD. So some of the benefits, obviously a 24-hour operation. So having over 50, right at 50 employees, 24/7, 365. Supervision is important for us. We've got a very young staff. It gives us defined lines of responsibilities. Another benefit is, as I mentioned, is no additional employees to make this happen. It certainly creates career progression opportunities. Many of our supervisors, that it would give them opportunity. Many of them have been in their roles for 8 years, 10 years, those type of numbers. Similar structures to other agencies in the area, even some title similarity to what Belton Fire recently did. And then one of the most important things, our sergeants really focus as those field supervisors, being out there in the field, not tied up on the administrative functions of the job. They wouldn't get totally out of administration functions, but it would lighten much of the load on them. And then another part of this proposal, that this discussion item here, is a slight scale adjustment for the officer too. This is a critical thing in our agency right now, and it's critical across the law enforcement profession. We're probably going to get in a crisis with having cops across the country, and we won't be exempt from that. Recruitment is a challenge. Retention's a challenge. It's a challenging time for law enforcement. Just that narrative. We had an officer tell us just this week that their spouses encourage them to get out of the business and stay home. They're retired military, so they don't have to work. And that's the second one. We have one that's actually retiring out Friday. And so it becomes challenging. So this slight adjustment here will make some efforts to making our pay scale a little bit more competitive. It won't get us where we need to be, but it definitely makes some steps in the right direction and align the number of steps we have closer between our ranks. And then here's the kind of the meat and potatoes of it. That's a lot of information you have in front of you. The one on the left is where we currently are. The one on the right is what we're proposing as part of the FY22 budget. As you see, we reduced the number of steps for a patrol officer from, they currently top out at year 15. We'd reduce that to year 11. In essence, what we did is took the step 5 on the current one and made that step 1 where we're hiring in at that. I'll tell you that some of our neighbors, that top pay at 15, some of our neighbors are paying 1-year cops that kind of money. And then we certainly had to make some adjustment to add the rank of captain in there, fitting it in there between lieutenant and deputy chief. the cost of this, the reclassifications, making those captains and the promotions and all that is approximately $50,000 a year. This officer scale compression adjustment is about $130,000. So a total estimate of around $180,000. I'll put this just as a glimpse. This was posted about a week ago of what we're competing against. I draw your attention to the bottom right side. That's after they get off field training. So before they hit their first year. We're not asking to try to compete at that level, but that's something we're facing right now. And that's not a real uncommon number in this profession now. I'd be happy to answer questions, concerns, any feedback you have.
Chief, it looks like this sets you up for the long haul. We're going to be a growing city. We're going to be needing to add officers, but it looks like you've got the structure once you do this, that you can expand. You've got all your shifts covered. So it looks like a long-term fix to me.
Yes, sir.
And structurally.
Structurally, I agree with you. I think it does get our core where our core needs to be.
Right.
Good step.
Thank you.
And also with all the news and everything with the police that's going on, thank you for your team being who you guys are.
Amen.
Everybody else is trying to change and modify what they do, and you guys have been doing it. So that's really, really good. So thank you guys. I know you guys don't hear it that much, but we really do appreciate what you guys do.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
We do. And I wish we could be more competitive with what you just showed right there too, because this is where we want the top quality folks to be, and it's going to be hard to continue to keep pace with that.
You bet. And Mayor and Council, we're looking really, really hard. We really would like to implement the recommendations that Gene has made. We will be working very, very hard to work these recommendations into the budget. It is just absolutely critical for us to be able to maintain the outstanding staff that Gene has assembled. Worked so hard on the front end to get these folks here and trained and capable, and then to try to retain them. It's just so important for the longevity of our community and the protection and safety of our community in order to do that. And so we're going to be working very, very hard to try to accomplish this, because it's the right thing to do. And again, it's quality of life. Gene very early on talked about in our strategic plan, quality of life as a component of economic development, and it absolutely is. And so we want to do everything we can to try to ensure that we can accomplish these goals.
Well, I certainly agree. And as everybody said, we really applaud what you've been doing. I know you've had some extraordinary challenges with some incidents in the recent past within the total environment of policing nationwide, but that's one thing we don't get complaints about. We get comments, we get positive comments, and that goes back to you and your leadership and your team, and we appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We appreciate your support.
In our clergy police fellowship meeting the other day, and about every time we meet with our law enforcement branch, I just am completely amazed at the spirit and the attitude of service, servanthood of you all, and in our leadership and all of you, what you do. And it's amazing to me that under the pressures of today and the defunding, how we are excited about funding and the value that you guys bring, but the spirit of servanthood.
Thank you.
And Larry, that goes for you and your other fellow officers too. We appreciate it very much.
Well, we're never going to be able to compete with our local competition on pay, but the type of department you have, and the type of department you've created, things like this should help. And we're all about doing everything we can. And I think we've made some steps. I think we've had a little setback with COVID and budget and things, but I think we're all committed to do everything we can, but we know we're never gonna, you're just not gonna compete with McLean or
I think we'll get there someday. I'm
I think so.
optimistic.
Well, based on the, again, the appraisals, we're going to get there. We're going to have an unlimited source of funding.
I think what you just saw with some of the things that Angela talked about, I think, that the future is bright, and we don't have to be the highest paid, but we certainly can be competitive.
Yeah, we need to be in the ballpark. I mean, we can't
Exactly.
be way behind.
10,000 behind's not in the ballpark.
No,
Thank
it's not. Any other comments, questions? And once again, we appreciate that and look forward to hearing more about it in the future. And
I move we approve item 15 as presented.
I don't think we have to
It's just
take
a
no
work
action tonight.
No
but,
action item just yet.
Oh, come
We gotta tally up the appraisals first.
The thought is there, but there being no further thing to come before the council, we are adjourned.
There you go.